What I'm about to share with you never happened. But it appears as if it happened, because it appears, observe that I'm using the word appears, I'll use it a lot. It appears as if I am here talking to you. And if you're there, listening to me. You know? That's part of the grand illusion. That give testimony to the belief that this is really happening. So, God is all that there is. And that's why A Course in Miracles is established as a non-dual teaching. Non-dual means not two, means one. And even the word one is something that we have to be careful of, because the word one implies somehow an objective quality of one. So in reality, all that there is. But again, that's where the language is going to limit us. And we're going to use the best of our language just to see what happens. Okay? So, there's only God, there's only oneness, there's only peace, there's only joy, there's only that which is. Okay? Within that, all that there is, it appears a thought crosses that space. Okay? A thought. We call it a tiny mad idea. Just a thought. A thought that it's a very innocent thought. It's like when you go to sleep, right? At the beginning, you feel that you know that you are you in your body, closing your eyes, and you're getting comfortable. But between that space and finally getting caught in the sleep, in the dream, there's sort of like a transition. There has to be something that supposedly projects the dream. You see? You don't know exactly what it is. You don't fabricate it. You don't know. You simply just something that appears to happen. First, you're in bed. You're getting comfortable. You still know that you're you. That's the only one. And then somewhere along the lines, whoop, you're in a sleep. Right? And in that sleep a dream appears, supposedly. So that transition process, well, this is supposedly the appearing thought that appears to have occurred, but it never did. Right? So, in this thought that appears to occur, this is in any way, in any sense, what we refer to as the thought system of separation. A Course in Miracles refers to as consciousness. Right? I'm going to use the word mind as a way of saying that, there's the mind, there's God, and there's the mind. Right? You can use the word consciousness. The reason why they call it consciousness, the first separation, is because when consciousness seems to appear, consciousness means that it has to be conscious of something. That's what consciousness is. I'm conscious of. For me to be conscious of something, there have to be a separation. Otherwise, there's nothing. That's why the Course refers to as perception. Perception can only exist when there's an object and a subject. Otherwise, it could not exist. In oneness, perception doesn't exist. What does that mean? In oneness, it's all that there is. But in perception, I can perceive a woman. You see? And I can perceive an eye that seems to be looking at a woman, or a chair, or a camera. You see? This is the world of perception. Right? So we also call it the world of the ego. That's what the ego is. The ego is really a thought in the mind. Now, in the moment that this appearing thought appears to show up, it's like when you see your son or your daughter is about to fall asleep. In the moment you see them going like this, you go, wait. Does that make sense? So in the moment that it appears as if the thought of separation has occurred, which meaning that the ego thought system is born, right? In that moment, the answer was given. Those of you who are familiar with the Course in Miracles, you know what that answer is? Holy Spirit. A Holy Spirit is nothing but a memory. See, this is a belief that I'm separate from everything. This is just a reminder that this is not true. That's what the Holy Spirit is. Right? So, as you can see, where is that the ego is undone? In the mind. All it has to do is just, if in the mind the decision is in favor of the Holy Spirit, all this stuff disappears. We're done. Now, what happens? Just for the sake of, again, language, which is very limiting because I'm going to give ego qualities as if the ego does something, but the ego cannot do anything because the ego doesn't exist. But we're still on the limitations of language. What the ego does is says, if I let the mind choose this thought system, I'm gone. So you know what it does? It projects. It projects a dream. The only purpose of the dream is to keep the mind distracted from itself and put its attention somewhere else. In that dream, the ego thought system projects an I, see, a body, right? And now the mind is distracted with the dream, identifying itself with a person, whatever I think I am. You see? So the purpose of the dream, the purpose of the person, is really to keep myself or keep the mind distracted from it. That's why A Course in Miracles never asks you to do anything in the world, because all that it will do is keep the mind distracted from truth. That's what the Course always tells you: seek not to change the world, but to seek to change your mind about the world. Everything I do in the world is just keeping the mind distracted. That's what the Course is always bringing you back to silence, and it brings you with lessons like nothing I see means anything. Which you could say nothing I feel means anything. Nothing I hear means anything, because there's no one hearing, there's no one seeing, there's no one feeling, because there's no one here, because there is no dream. See how simple it is? So, A Course in Miracles, what it does is that within the dream, where the mind is identified with, like right now, my mind is identified with this character called Nick Arandes. And I guarantee that if I ask you, what is your name? You will say, my name is. But that is not who you are. That's just a label you're placing on the idea that you're a body, which reinforces the idea that you're something separate. Of course I'm separate from them. Look at that. He's over there, I'm over here. But in reality, who I really am, who he really is, who all of us are, is the oneness. You see? So the only way I can actually allow myself to be consciously aware of that is not something I can do, because as long as I'm identified with this, I'm already identified with the ego. It doesn't matter. But I can withdraw the meaning to everything in recognition that I know nothing, and I allow the Holy Spirit settle in the mind and takes care of all the work. So, how the Holy Spirit does that? Well, 2,000 years ago, for the sake of language and for the sake of the story, showed up as a man named Jesus. Jesus was a figure in the dream that it was used to try to convey the mind, not the person, the mind, that it is all a dream. Right? Now in 2018, it's showing up in the form of a little book. He's called A Course in Miracles. Now, this is where I have seen all the confusion with the Course, and that's why a very simple teaching, it appears to be very complicated. A Course in Miracles is not talking to you as a person because you're not here. And if you don't have that clear, this Course is going to be completely confusing. Because you're going to try to apply the Course in Miracles to the world. A Course in Miracles is talking to the mind that is dreaming you. That's why you have to get out of the way. But everything I see, everything I hear, everything I feel, all it does is bring the attention back to this I that I think I am. And everything that happens in my world. Somebody robs me, somebody hurts me, all that kind of stuff. All that it does is keeping the mind distracted to this I. And this is where A Course in Miracles says, you don't even have a clue what's going on, but I can help you if you choose me. And the way I choose the Holy Spirit thought system is not doing anything special in the world. is simply withdrawing my attention in that space of silence. The miracle does nothing. Simply be still and trust. And that's how I let go of all my judgment, meaning that the judgments of the ego through this character, and I trust. And that's how the work is being done, and I don't have to do anything. Now, look at the beauty of this. I'm talking about choosing between the Holy Spirit thought system and the ego thought system. I got great news for you. You cannot choose between two thought systems because there are no such thing as two thought systems, because the thought system of the ego is not true. You're like, what the hell this guy's talking about? In other words, I don't choose the Holy Spirit thought system because the choosing of the Holy Spirit thought system would imply that there is an ego thought system. And now I'm choosing between the two. I already chose the ego thought system. You know how I know that? Because I'm here. Because I think I'm a body. Because I think that there's a world. That implies I already chose the ego thought system. But now that I'm in this mess, what do? And the Holy Spirit says, I need do nothing. What it means, I don't choose the Holy Spirit thought system. I simply surrender to what is, and in that surrendering to what is, I am no longer holding on to the ego thought system, and that is the equivalent of choosing the Holy Spirit thought system.